Now, we're always hearing, aren't we, from the Remainers side of the argument, that prices are going to go up when Brexit comes, that prices are going to be terrible, there's going to be shortages of everything. We just heard another Green MEP on there saying that she was demonstrating against the government because apparently the first referendum has now been declared null and void. She actually made that up on the spot. Extraordinary stuff. Now, I'm delighted to say we're going to talk to Tim Martin very shortly, founder and chairman of Wetherspoons, because a story in the Times this morning from the Social Market Foundation says basically that after Brexit, there should be a reduction in the tax on beer and there should be a reduction in the tax on wine as well. We're going to talk now to Scott Korf, who is in fact the author of the study, and find out what the research means. Scott, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
So, this is going rather against the run of play, isn't it? Because everyone's telling us that prices are going to go up over Brexit. You're suggesting that it's an opportunity to actually reduce prices.
What we're seeing in our research is that the current alcohol taxation system in the UK is a complete mess. We're not taxing the most damaging products high enough, and then we're perhaps overly penalising some of the least damaging products. And actually, some of this is down to EU regulation. EU regulation means we cannot tax super strength ciders as we'd like to. It means we can't tax super strength wines as we'd like to. And if we aren't tied up with these EU rules, we could introduce new lower rates of duty for weaker products, and we could also, if we moved away from EU regulation, we could make a distinction between drinks consumed in the on-trade, that's in pubs and bars, and drinks consumed in the off-trade,
right.
Things bought in supermarkets and off-license.
Yeah, because your study suggests that a pint of beer could be cut by 26p in a pub, but the cost, if you bought it in a supermarket, might go up. How would that work?
That's right. So what we're proposing in our research is the introduction of a new pub duty relief, which would allow pubs and bars to claim back some of the duty costs they face. So this means that tax is higher in the off-trade. So it's higher when you're buying booze from the supermarket or the off-license, where the products are sometimes, if I were to give my opinion, sometimes too cheap. You know, the giant plastic bottles of super strength cider, some of the own brand vodkas, I think are too cheap. And if you look at who's consuming them, these are the products consumed by alcoholics and people with serious drinking problems disproportionately. So we want to tax those products. We don't want to overtax the products consumed by low-risk drinkers.
OK. Fascinating stuff. Scott, thanks very much indeed. That's Scott Korf, their research director at the Social Market Foundation. Let's talk to Tim Martin, who's the founder and chairman of Wetherspoons, of course. Tim, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Now, I've seen you before talking about the prices of certainly of beer possibly going down after Brexit, as a bonus of Brexit, really, much against what many people would say is going to happen, because all we hear a lot of is the Remainers saying, oh, prices are going to go up, you know, we're not going to be able to get certain things. What do you make of this study?
Well, yes, I think the people who say that, just as an aside, are wrong, because there's many protectionist tariffs that the government can abolish if we leave the EU from in respect of non-EU imports, which is most of the world, which will reduce tariffs. But that aside, you won't be surprised to hear that I agree with Scott. In fact, the supermarkets now have a tax break whereby they pay no VAT on food sales and pubs pay 20%. And the effect of that is to allow supermarkets to subsidize the price of beer sales and alcoholic drink sales from this tax break. And so supermarkets have got cheaper as time has gone by, and as the VAT rate has gone up, pubs have become relatively more expensive. So what Scott is suggesting is a sensible rebalancing of the system, which would make it would still be cheaper in supermarkets by some measure, but it would enable people to go to pubs. And I think that is, leave aside my pubs, I think it's that most people now accept that it's a social advantage to drink in a social environment. You pay a bit more anyway in the on-trade because the costs are much higher, and it's supervised drinking. So that can't prevent people from behaving idiotically from time to time, of course, but it's much better once you lose all control of the consumption of alcohol once it's sold at the supermarket till. So I think a lot of people would go along with Scott that there are tremendous social advantages, including pushing up the average price that someone pays, because pubs are more expensive by reversing the trend towards supermarket drinking.
Sure. And, I mean, the governments historically, and I don't just mean this government, every government historically loves the idea of the sin tax, don't they? They love taxing tobacco and they love taxing alcohol. But it doesn't seem to be a very fair tax. I was talking to a wine expert a few weeks ago who said that the wine tax is sort of really, really skewed against wine rather than against beer.
Well, you get into all sorts of difficult areas here. I think beer and pubs are synonymous. So I'd certainly hate anything that pushed up the price of a pint any more than it is today. But I suppose there is an argument for equality of taxes. I really thought Scott hit the nail on the head when he said, actually, it means your own MP, your government, can be in charge of correcting these anomalies, and he named a few, if we leave the EU, because now you can't, and everyone thinks, if it's an EU regulation, how the heck do you go about altering that? So that's the essence of the argument for more democracy and leaving the EU.
Well, it exactly is, and you'll find many of those arguments right here on the Independent Republic, Tim. I was going to ask you, just generally speaking, we've been in Westminster all week. It's my first show out of the studios here in London Bridge. It's been an absolutely kind of ridiculous waste of another week of time, hasn't it?
Well, it's pretty incredible. If you boil it all down, what you've got in this country is you've got the Oxbridge Remainer class, who are perfectly entitled to their views, intelligent people with good intentions, but they're overbearing control in Parliament, in the CBI and the FT, and they don't want to leave. For them, and some of my best friends are Oxbridge Remainers, it is the EU is a quasi-religion, and they've put that above democracy. The rest of the country, bless us, knows that if you want humanity to survive, democracy must prevail over a Brussels superstate.
Well, absolutely right. But what do you think is going to be the outcome here? Because, I mean, I started the week believing that we were going to actually get somewhere and Boris was going to get to lead us down the road to the proroguing of Parliament, getting closer to October the 31st. Now I'm not quite so sure.
I think between the Leave side of the Conservative Party, the Brexit Party, and the trenchant work of other Leavers, that we will just regain democracy, just as we managed to avoid joining the Euro when the same political faction tried to get us to join. So I'm an optimist, Mike.
Yes, well, I'm an optimist too. I once did an entire show on optimism and how good it is for you and how great it is to believe in something which is actually positive rather than to believe in something negative. So the fight continues on here, Tim. You're very welcome to come in and join us any time.
I don't envy you your task in Parliament.
Well, I'm giving them all a good shoeing, as we used to say in Scotland, but good luck with it, Tim. Thank you very much indeed. Tim Martin there, the founder and chairman of Wetherspoons, who says, as I think most of us would agree, the problem with people who love the EU is that it has become a kind of quasi-religion to them. You cannot criticise it. It's become a bit like the NHS. If you must be against the NHS if you think there's anything wrong with it, you must be against the European Union if you think there's anything wrong with it. It's a wonderful organisation. It's fantastic. It saves us from wars. It stops us from exploiting each other. It amazingly enables people to come and work here from other countries. Well, all of those things have happened long before the EU ever came about, and they will continue to happen in what I believe to be a very civilised country, which is what we are. I'll tell you who's making this country uncivilised. It's the people who continually whine, who continually moan, who continually groan, and who continually make out that this is not a democracy, even though democracy is happening all around them. And the one part of the democracy that they can't seem to recognise is the one part which actually led us to leave the European Union in the first place, the biggest single vote that was ever taken place in this country in 3 years ago, in 2016, when we voted to leave the European Union. Let's get on with it, shall we?